Welcome to the Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of the Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello, imagination. I'm Vince Kramer, your host, and welcome to the Miracle You, where you learn about the magic of living your life by finding the example in real life.
We are all special. We have this unique combination of gifts and talents that no one else in the whole entire world has. And these gifts and talents come from the experiences and the circumstances that we create or co-create in our lives. We learn from these circumstances. We have opportunities to grow. We get to experience things that are going to help us live our purpose or live our divine intent in this world. Through the experiences, we get to choose how we respond to them. And our choice of response can either empower us or disempower us. And it truly is a choice through free will. If we lived from a place of empowerment, we will live our life our way. I'm with Tonikia Steans today. Tonikia is known as the Mindful Coach. She is an entrepreneur, life success coach for womenpreneurs, associate pastor, wife, and mom to 10 incredible children. She knows all about the challenges entrepreneurial women struggle with as they juggle multiple hats because she has lived it herself. Tonikia loves coaching and mentoring those who are excited to clarify their goals and make notable changes that will impact their presence. She believes your overall outcome is based on your level of desire. In essence, once a client begins to work with her, they won't look back and she'll be there with them every step of the way. Tonikia Steans, are you ready to share the miracle of you with the imagination?
I think so. I'm ready.
It's so glad to have you here. And I love it when I get an opportunity to interview a podcaster because the flow seems to be different. So I can't wait to see where we go and what we get to learn about you and your story. Before we do that, could you share a little bit more about you and what you're doing right now in the world?
Well, I'm just here trying to get by. It's funny, you call me a podcaster, and I don't even, it's hilarious when I hear people say that I'm a podcaster because I call myself the accidental podcaster. And I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But yeah, it's just funny. I'm so grateful to be in this space. So thank you for having me today. And right now, I'm just trying to help other people see that they don't have to find their purpose. They already have a purpose that's within, and they maybe just need some help bringing it out.
Oh, I have to agree with you 100%. We're definitely in alignment there. At Imagine Miracles, we teach pretty much the same things. As life happened for you, first of all, I don't know how you have time for anything with 10 incredible kids.
We're down to 3 now.
All right. Did you just get rid of them or?
We did, and now we inherited a grandbaby. No, one lives in another state. Well, 2 live in another state. One's in the Army. Two's going to college. 1 has a baby. 3 are at home. So 2 is in high school and 1's in elementary.
Amazing. You don't look much over 20 yourself. So
well, thank you.
You're
My
so
mom said
wrong.
I'm not, she said, told me one day, she's like, I said, I look 18. She said, you're not even 18 times 2. And I was like, oh, she's right.
Take that. So Tonikia, can you share with us what happened in your life to really get you to start stepping into being a coach and an associate pastor and even an entrepreneur?
I thought you was going to say being a sociopath. I was going to say, well, that didn't happen overnight, I'll tell you. No, what happened when I was younger, I felt my whole life I've always been a servant. And I've always liked to help people. I've always had a caring heart, always wanted to mentor and help. And when I was younger, I thought I was going to be this great motivational speaker. And so I would always, my kids think that I'll lecture them all the time. So I'm trying to not do that as much. I'm practicing. But I just engage people and they just start telling me stuff. I don't ask them to tell me this stuff. They just start telling me stuff. And then for some reason, by the time we walk away, it's like they feel like I've solved a problem for them. But truthfully, they've actually encouraged me on the opposite end of it. And so I'm like, man, it feels good helping others. And when you see that someone actually, a light bulb goes off or something clicks in them, that it changes them, it makes you feel like, wow, I'm really doing something worthwhile in someone else's life. And then my husband said, you're a life coach. And I'm like, well, what is that? And this was way before the days before we had all these gurus and life coaches and anybody knew anything about life coaching. And he was like, you ought to do it. And I go, I can't get paid for that. And that's why it took me forever, because I just wanted to give away free stuff. I just wanted to help everybody for free. And he's like, Tonikia, you cannot do that. And so I finally took some classes, got some training, got certified. And then I still, for 6 years, didn't do anything with it because I was terrified that I'm a Christian and people, my mentor actually told me that people aren't going to buy into that. You got to drop the Christian thing. And so I was torn for a long time on how do I walk in this call. And it wasn't until I answered my call to ministry that I was like, you know what? It is what it is. And maybe there is a marketplace for this for people like me. And here we are.
Well, and I want to share that I appreciate you sharing the way you did. First of all, we all have this quintessence, this true essence of who we are. And that energy attracts people. So you have that associate pastor, life coach energy, or people wouldn't come and share their problems and look for advice from you. So that energy is attracting them in. So I really appreciate that. But then I also appreciate you sharing that so many times we believe that who we are, how we live our life, what our gifts and talents aren't the things that people are looking for. So we go out and learn somebody else's way. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate you sharing that you had that understanding, kind of a wake up to the fact that the people who are looking for you are looking for someone who's got a connection with the church, that believes in their religion. And each and every one of us have something that there's people out there looking for. So thank you for sharing that. I know you've had some ups and downs in your life. Anybody who has 10 kids has definitely had ups and downs in their life. But let me ask you this. Was there a true wake-up call to really put you on path?
Absolutely. My children, just for the record, I have all these beautiful, fabulous children, and I haven't given birth to one.
Oh, well, congratulations and thank you.
That might be why my youth is still here. I keep telling myself, though, oh, God, I'm going to be Sarah, and God is going to give me a baby when I'm well into my 50s. And my kids are like, why would you want to have a baby? And I'm like, what? Are you serious? But anyways, but yeah, so we in 2018, we got a phone call. Sorry, 2016, we got a phone call that my nieces and nephews were in foster care. And there are 8 of them all together. Now, the other 2 children are my husband's children before we got together and got married. And we've been together for 25 years. So all these children are mine. I've been in their lives. But one of the children we had in our life since she was 6 years old. We got custody of her, but she was number 4 out of the 8 children. And in 2016, we got a phone call that 5 of them were in foster care. The 2 oldest were here already in the same town that we're in, but one was with an aunt. The other one was with my mother-in-law, but we still were in that connection of being influential in raising them and keeping them together. And my whole thought was, we got to get these babies together. We got to bring them together. We've got to make sure that they're not separated. And so we got called that we were going to get 2 of the 5. And at the time, we didn't know that there was one. One wasn't even here yet. And so when he was born, that expedited everything and put the children into our house faster. Well, when they came into our house, it was a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, an 11-year-old and a 15-year-old. And then their sister that they hadn't seen in years. It'd been probably 6 years that they hadn't seen each other. And so when it was a struggle, trying to get everything acclimated. And my only thought was, we just have to love them. It takes more than love, people. Love is everything, but it takes more than love to raise children and to have a household and to keep it organized. But I just knew in my heart that this is what we needed to do. And so we brought them in, and I promised these children that they were going to always be together. And that when time came, that when it was possible for them to have a relationship with their mom again, they would be in a place that they'd be able to do so. Well, the baby, after 3 years almost of him being with us, the courts decided to let his dad have him. And that was right around the time that COVID was coming about. And so I found out I wasn't feeling good, and I don't know if I had COVID. I don't know what was going on because we didn't know what was happening. We didn't know about COVID at the time. I know it was in February, right before COVID came. And I got a phone call, and it was on Valentine's Day, and I'll never forget. And I was told that they were going to be removing him from our house on that Monday. Well, I had to preach that Sunday. And I was just like, I don't know, everything just went south for me. And after that, after he left the next month, I just was in a frenzy. I couldn't do anything because I was shooken, because I said, I promised these children. And his sister, the 2 smallest, when they were so close together, and they had just united in our home, right? And so now she has another brother that was already with his dad, but we get him in the summer and everything. And she was already taken away from that brother. And so the other kids are older, these kids are stretched out in ages. And so this was the only sibling that she had that was close to her age. And so every time someone left, she was devastated that they weren't coming back. And when me and dad went to the store, she thought we weren't coming back. And so it was, and it wore on me. And I started thinking that the last time that I saw him, he said, "Mommy, I don't want to leave you." And so that just kept tearing at me. So for 8 days straight, I didn't sleep. And I started thinking that everybody around me was losing their mind. They're going crazy. They're saying crazy stuff. They're doing crazy stuff. They need to get some help. It was me. I was the one that needed help. But I really, because I do this mindfulness and I've got it all together, I was just going on autopilot and didn't have a clue how reckless I was. And it was funny because I remember the day before all of this took place, it was a Sunday, March 8th, I walked into the church and I went to the front of the church and I told them, this is the last time we're going to be having church like this. I remember this vividly. God is not pleased with what's going on in the world and he's about to shut it down. And I turned around and I walked out the church. And lo and behold, I end up in the hospital. The next week, I'm like, while I'm in the hospital, my mom is talking to me. She's like, well, whatever you went and told the church, they just shut it down. Church is closed down. The world's closed down. Nobody's going anywhere. And one of the ladies at the hospital, I was talking to her and I go, everybody thinks I'm crazy. And I said, I'm not crazy, but this is what's going on. And she was telling my mom, she's like, she's talking about apocalypse. And I was like, somebody gets it. I'm seeing these visions. I'm having these visions. And while I was in the hospital, they kept telling me that I had all these things because I'm an empath and I didn't even know that I was an empath, and I was taking on things that I didn't know I was taking on. And so the things that they were trying to diagnose me with were things that actually was my sister-in-law, the mother of the children, who has these issues. The medication that I was on, my husband in 2019 had open heart surgery, and these are the medications that he was taking. And I'm just like, this isn't real. And so the doctor told me, if you don't cooperate, we're going to lock you up for 90 days. And I was like, okay, Tonikia, whatever you got to do, you got to play this game. You're smarter than what they think you are. And you got to just go along so you can get out of here. So I went and I started meditating and I started praying and I started deep breathing. And I said, God, I just need you to tell me what you want me to do. And while I was in there, he said, you got to get your mind in order. You've got to get your mind right. This is the time right now that mental health is on the rise and you have to help people. And the only way you can help them is if you understand what it looks like. And I got out of the hospital. And as soon as I got out of the hospital, I took my business that I had for 6 years that I didn't do anything with. I totally revamped it, changed it around. My husband gave me the name Your Full Mind Life. Now look at that. He had no clue about that. And he's like, you got to have a name that nobody's ever heard of. And so he came up with the name. He's like, you got to have a full mind to have a full life. And I'm like, absolutely, it works. So we started that, launched that on August 1st. I actually incorporated on September 18th. And then I had an epiphany that I want to do something to give back, to help people, to tell their story, to be able, there's voices out there that need to be heard. People are going through things. And in order for us to humanize people, we have to be able to see what it is they're going through. And so I'm real visionary. And if you're telling me a story, I can envision myself in that story. I can see it happening and see it. And I go, if people can see that and connect, how much greater would that help them to have more empathy for people, have more compassion, and to see them for who they are and not for what they do? Because I can tell you to this day, nobody still believes that this happened to me. Even though I was in the hospital, even though I went through all of this stuff, COVID covered it up for me. I haven't even really got to share my story. I said it'll probably be 20 years from now before anybody knows the real truth about what happened and all the things I went through. But I started the podcast and I was terrified because I go, give me a microphone, get me in front of people. I can go all day. Put me in front of a camera. It's weird. I'm seeing myself. I hear my voice. I don't want to do that. But it's not about me. This is about other people. And when I looked at it that way, I was like, I can do this all day long. I can bring people on. I can let them have that platform. It's their platform. It's the people's platform. And here we are now. And in that podcast, Mind Your Business, Mindful Intentions, Nurture and Drive Your Business, has a mind of its own. It does its own thing. I don't even book calls for it. I got on Podmatch and it's filled up. It's booked up to September right now. And then every day it like my calendar goes off, and that's what I was working on. And people are booking or coming and saying, you're doing great things. And I'm like, well, what am I doing? I'm not doing anything. I'm just bringing information that needs to get out there that otherwise wouldn't be heard.
So you shared so many things there, so many different directions that we can go. No problem whatsoever. It makes it easy, just deciding where to go.
You gotta cut me off because I don't know how. I'm just a river running. So hey,
you're a podcaster. You let other people talk, so I know you can do it. So one of the interesting things that you said was people need to tell their story. And they need to tell their story because it helps them heal. But what I have found also in one of the reasons that I have this podcast is so people can see they're not alone, that other people are experiencing exactly what they're experiencing. And once that happens, we do start to realize that we're not this island out there in the middle of nowhere. There might be a bunch of little islands floating out there because life gets to us. I mean, we move into depression, we move into anxiety, but they're fluid islands. They can all come together in community. So so powerful in the way that you shared that. Let me ask you this: as you realized that you truly have a mission, and that mission has to do with experiencing what you experienced, and you've experienced a lot in your life, taking on and adopting children and losing a child at 3 years old. I mean, very, very difficult. What all those things coming together, I'm going to ask you, how do they come into helping you be a better mindful coach?
Well, first I had to understand that I have no control over situations. But what I do have control over is how I respond to them. And some days I have to pull myself back, even now, because I'm like, okay, I don't like the way I'm responding. I don't like the way that I'm acting. I got to take a time out. I've got to pause. And so just learning that we can step back for a moment. You don't have to go full throttle all the time. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to be in control. And how I understood that is when I went to therapy. See, everything happens for a reason, because I knew going into ministry, I need to have a therapist anyways, because you're going to have to talk to somebody from everything you're dealing with. And my therapist asked me one day, I said, well, I have to do this and I have to do that. And he goes, who told you you had to do those things? And I said, nobody. Wow. And it's like a burden lifted off of me. Like, I don't have to. I don't have to feel obligated. I don't have to feel bad. I don't have to feel sorry. I don't have to feel like I'm the one. And I know that there's other people that are out there that are like that. And sometimes I get looked at as like, oh, well, I'm just gonna put it on you because I know you can handle it. And sometimes I can't handle it. And I don't, because I look strong doesn't mean that I am, and being able to show your vulnerability is a good thing. And I didn't understand that. I thought that I had to not show the weakness. But then I understand that the more that I'm weak, the more God is perfected in me. And so I'm just like, you know what? Let it go. And I used to, when I started the podcast, if everything wasn't in sync and right on time and in order, I would freak out and break down and cry, and it's not right. And now I don't care. The other day I did a podcast with my grandson sitting on my lap, and I'm like, listen, this is what it is today. This is why I do this. And we had a great podcast. It was awesome. And so, I mean, sometimes you just have to go with life.
And we're doing that right now as the storm rages outside the window here. So everybody's going to get to experience a Colorado storm that listens to your episode. Tell me what it means to be a transformational life strategist.
Well, first of all, we have business that we have these businesses and we do strategic planning, right? But how often do we do a strategic plan for our life? How often do we actually map out? We say we have goals and we set goals, and sometimes we reach them and sometimes we don't. But when you have a strategic plan, you're going to really go through that and make sure that it is doing what it's supposed to. And then you're going to readjust it and come into alignment with it. The same thing with the transformation. You start with the life strategy. What is the end result going to look like? Well, we don't know what that's going to look like, but where are we at right now? And where do we want to go? And how are we going to get there? We're going to map that out. What's the first thing we need to do? We got to get our mind right. And before you do anything, start a business, get married, start a new job, go to school, whatever you do, you have to be in the right mind frame, because you might start it, but you're not going to finish it if your mind is not right. No matter what you're going through, if you're in the right mind frame, you can get through anything. And so you have to strategize that plan of your life to be transformed.
And then you share that your overall outcome is based on the level of desire. How do you help people find that desire?
Well, I used to get upset because I feel like I see it in you and I want to pull it out of you, but I can't want it more than you. How much do you want this, and what are you willing to put into it? Are you willing to show up on the tough days? Are you willing to show up for yourself? Because I often find that people show up for jobs, they show up for school, they show up for weddings or whatever, they show up, but they don't tend to show up for themselves. And so my thought is this: if you really are serious, you have to show up for yourself. You have to have a desire to show up for yourself. Even though you want to stay in that bed or you don't want to do it today, you have to do it anyways. And it's okay that sometimes that you might not want to get up. Don't. But tomorrow, you got to get it in gear. And so it's about having that desire. It's not even necessarily a drive, but when that desire is in you, it's going to keep pushing you and pushing you. You're going to keep telling yourself, I've got to do something. And when you do that, you're going to reach out for that help. And what I've learned is now I can't seek people to help. The people that want my help, they're going to find me, because who I'm looking for is myself. And hardly do we ever find ourselves that way. You know, if I can go look in the mirror and be like, I'm trying to find myself. But when you talk to someone and you go, wow, I understand where you're coming from. I get that. I just had an epiphany of what you just said. Just something just clicked in my head and now I get it. And that is helping me to understand that what's inside of me, I can do it too. If you did it, then hey, you know, I can too. And so you've got to have that desire to want to do it, first of all. And we all have that desire in us, but we've got to believe. And that's where I come in, because you've got the desire and I've got to push you. I'm going to help you. I'm not gonna bully you. I had a coach that she's a bully though. She's gonna bully you into doing what you're supposed to do, and it works for her. I don't have that approach. But what I am gonna do is I'm gonna encourage you, and I'm gonna continue to tell you that you can do it, because there's no reason that you can't, unless you just don't do it.
Why do you think people don't or can't find the desire in themselves for things?
We've been lied to our whole lives. We've been told things that aren't true. I mean, we've been told things that we find out that, oh my goodness, you mean that's not for real? That's these core belief systems that we've grown up on, and these values that we think that we have. But what is really true about you and who you are? I don't do it for my mom. I don't do it for my children. I don't do it for my husband. At one time I did. But it doesn't matter, because what if they all leave and disappear? What am I going to do then? I'm still going to have to go on because I'm still here. So I have to do it for me. So that's, again, you have to show up for yourself. You can't do it because of whoever else is there. No matter who's there, you got to do it for you.
No, the amazing thing is nobody told us that beliefs aren't real. And nobody told us they could change, we could change them. So
Absolutely.
thanks for sharing that. That's awesome. Believe it or not, we're close to the end of our time. Can you share a quick parting piece of guidance?
Yeah, you know, my thing is this. We always try to figure out things and we always want to understand. But my favorite verse is this: lean not on your own understanding, but acknowledge him in all your ways and he'll make your path straight. Whatever path that is for you, whatever journey you are on in life, whatever you believe in, be true to that. Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of you, feels about you. You have to be true to who you are, your true self. And when you tap into that person, who you are, down deep inside, everything else will fall in place.
That's truly why we're here, to be ourselves. And unfortunately, we in many cases think that that's not enough, but that's more than enough. And I think you shared it very well earlier when you said the people that need you are looking for you. And if you're not willing to bring your special gifts and talents to the world, they're not going to find you, or you're not going to be able to help them on their journey. And we each need to help each other on the journey. Tonikia, can you tell people how they can get touch? Tonikia, can you tell people how they can get in touch with you and learn more about you?
Yes, well, I am the Mindful Coach. I'm on Facebook. I've got 3 different platforms on Facebook. One is Your Full Mind Life Coach, Tonikia Steans, and then Mind Your Business Podcast. And they're all under Tonikia Steans if you go and look for me that way. Also, you can find me on Instagram. I am on LinkedIn. I don't really go on there too much, but I am on LinkedIn. And you can go to yourfullmindlife.com. And you can look at all the things we do there, and you can send a contact or an email, and I turn around and get right back with you. So I'm really personable, and if I can't help you, I'll point you in the right direction and try to find somebody that can.
Well, there's no doubt that you're very personable and a joy to be with. So thank you so much. I'll make sure all of Tonikia's information is available on her show page. Just go to themiracleu.com, look for Tonikia Steans episode, and all that information will be available for you. Tonikia, thank you so much for sharing who you are. Thank you for being such a joy to interview. And I know that the world is such a better place because you're in it.
Well, I appreciate it. And you as well. This has been such a great time. And I'm excited to be on this end of it. So continue doing what you're doing and bringing miracles to life for other people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. On behalf of my wife and business partner, Mary, the entire team here at Imagine Miracles, we want to wish each and every one of you a miracle day.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleyou.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 Mind Awakening Steps Toward Your Unique Purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleyou.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.